You once cried for hours and forgot it by dinner. You took your first steps and have no memory of the room. You heard your mother's voice thousands of times before you understood a single word she said, and none of it is stored anywhere in your mind. Not lost, never written down in the first place. This is one of the strangest gaps in human experience. You were there. You were conscious. You were learning faster than you ever will again. And yet, if someone asked you to describe a single memory from before age 3, you would come up empty. Most people can't go back further than 3 or 4. Some can't go back past 5 or 6. Why does the most important developmental period of your life leave behind no footage at all? The easy answer is that babies are simple, underdeveloped, not really thinking yet. That answer is wrong. Babies are doing some of the most intense cognitive work a human brain will ever do. They are mapping an entire language from raw sound. They are learning gravity, object permanence, cause and effect, faces, emotions, danger. None of that gets stored as a memory you can later retrieve. The real answer is far stranger. Your brain wasn't failing to record your early life. It was building the equipment needed to record anything at all. Psychologists call this gap infantile amnesia. The term was coined by Sigmund Freud, though his explanation for it has not held up well. Freud believed the memories were repressed, pushed down because they were too emotionally disturbing to access. Modern neuroscience tells a much more mechanical story. Carolyn Rovi Collier, a developmental psychologist who spent decades studying infant memory, demonstrated that babies as young as 3 months old can form and retain memories for weeks. She trained infants to kick their legs to move a mobile above their crib, then showed that they remembered the connection days later. So the memories exist. Briefly, the infant brain is not a blank slate. It is recording constantly. The problem isn't input, it's storage architecture. Here's what's actually happening inside that tiny skull. Long-term retrievable memories, the kind you can consciously recall and narrate, depend heavily on a brain structure called the hippocampus. Think of the hippocampus as a librarian. It doesn't just hold memories, it indexes them, tags them, files them so you can find them again later. In infancy, that librarian is still being built. Neurons in the hippocampus are dividing and migrating at an extraordinary rate, a process called neurogenesis. New neurons are constantly being inserted into the existing network. Imagine trying to keep a library organized while construction crews are tearing down shelves and adding new wings every single day. Anything filed today might get physically displaced by tomorrow's renovation. Researcher Paul Franklin at the University of Toronto ran a now-famous study on this exact mechanism in mice. His team found that boosting neurogenesis in young mice actually erased memories that had just been formed. The new neurons weren't ignoring old memories. They were overwriting the wiring that held them. Franklin's conclusion reframed the entire question. Infantile amnesia isn't a flaw in the system. It's a side effect of a brain that is upgrading itself too fast for any single memory to survive the renovation. So if the hardware wasn't ready, what was happening to all that experience? It wasn't wasted. It just wasn't being stored as narrative memory. Psychologist Patricia Bauer, who has spent her career studying memory development in children, has shown that very young children form memories that fade rapidly unless reinforced. But the underlying learning, the skills, the associations, the emotional patterns often persists in different form. You don't remember learning to recognize your mother's face, but the recognition itself never left you. You don't remember the thousands of repetitions it took to learn that a spoon goes in your mouth and not your ear, but your hands still know. This is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Implicit memory survives. Explicit memory does not. Your brain split your early experience into 2 completely different systems and only handed you a receipt for one of them. The fear you can't explain, the comfort you feel in certain smells you can't place, the instinctive trust or distrust you form in new relationships before you've consciously evaluated anything. Some of that may be threads left over from a period you have zero conscious access to. You are running code you never got to read. There's a deeper evolutionary layer here too. Some researchers argue that the timing of memory consolidation isn't an accident of biology running behind schedule. It may be adaptive. A brain under construction needs flexibility more than it needs a fixed record. Early childhood is when the most foundational learning happens. Language acquisition, motor skill development, basic social bonding. A rigid memory system locked in too early might actually interfere with that plasticity. The forgetting might be the price of flexibility. Nature seems to have made a trade. You get a brain capable of absorbing an entire language, an entire culture, an entire sense of self in just a few years. In exchange, you don't get to keep the footage. And the hippocampus doesn't fully mature its adult-style indexing system until somewhere around age 7. That's why your earliest reliable memories tend to cluster around ages 3 to 7, fragments at first, then increasingly coherent stories. You're not remembering more because more happened. You're remembering more because the librarian finally has a stable card catalog. Here's where it gets stranger still. Even the memories you do have from early childhood are not raw recordings. They are reconstructions, rebuilt slightly differently every time you access them, shaped by photographs you've seen, stories your family has told you, even other people's memories blending into your own. Elizabeth Loftus, a cognitive psychologist known for her research on memory malleability, demonstrated that people can be made to remember entire events that never happened simply through suggestion and repeated narrative reinforcement. Some of what you think is your earliest memory might not even be a memory at all. It might be a story you were told so many times that your brain filed it as lived experience. So what does this mean for you, right now, today? It means the version of you that exists in your memory doesn't start at birth. It starts years later, once the renovation crew finally finished and the librarian could keep a stable catalog. Everything before that point, the voice you learned to recognize, the rhythm of your first language, the way certain foods or sounds made you feel safe, that's all still part of you. You just can't point to it. You can't narrate it. It shaped you from underneath the floor of conscious memory. Think about the next time you feel an inexplicable wave of comfort from a smell, a song, a particular quality of light in a room. You may be tempted to dismiss it as random. It might not be random at all. It might be the only kind of message your earliest self was ever able to send forward in time, not as a memory, but as a feeling with no name and no date attached.